Okay, for this XML, as we continue actually the same definition, the same process, the same for the same purpose. Sorry, the XML actually is a tag-based programming language. It's something that we can visualize to be an HTML-like. XML, first of all, stands for Extensible Markup Language. It is something used for the web, let's say, for design and web solutions, design web services, design and web inter-services solutions. Mainly, it is used for and not only used for clarifying and putting actually data into a structured form over the web. Means we are going to use the XML is going to be utilized for structuring the visualization of data over the web. Means the data which is in an structured way. Once it is actually tackled and visualized using the XML, it would be actually put into a structured mode. So, in the sense of it would give actually an informative view. It does not distinguish whether it is actually to be utilized for human purpose, mean to be actually visualized in a web page where the users are using or reading data, or for actually purpose of serving software. So whether it is a human or a machine content. So the XML, it would be actually utilized for both purposes. One very important thing is that the XML, since it is an HTML-like content, the XML actually it has a very let's say criteria, a specific criteria, which is distinguishing the XML from the HTML, which is being case sensitive. Differences in between those two actually presented programming languages, we may say, the XML and the HTML, we immediately tackle the context of that they are actually case sensitive. Yeah, absolutely. The XML is case sensitive while the HTML is not. What does mean? Means once we write a tag in XML in small, it is completely different when we write the XML actually the same tag but in capital. It's not the same. Why actually we see the same this criterion? The XML is case sensitive, while the HTML is not. Why both of them? They are tag programming languages, tag-based programming languages. The purpose is that the reason is that the purposes they are different. The purposes they are not the same. The XML is used for something completely different than what we see the HTML is for. The HTML is to render what the user had to visualize in a web, so let's say, solution or in a web platform, while the XML is not having the purpose of rendering the content into something that the user can read. No, it is to visualize data in sort of a structured, informative content, and it is to help build solutions for interoperating services over the web. Interoperating services over the web. It is customizable, while the HTML is not customizable. What does it mean? In the sense of XML tags, they are to be generated by the users, the developers themselves. While the HTML, no, they are tags predefined. Developers of web solutions using the HTML, they have to use the predefined tags of the HTML. While the users or the implementers or the developers that they are actually using the XML as a solution, they do not have to use the predefined method, tags, because the XML is not built on top of predefined tags. XML is customizable. In conclusion, here, when we say that the XML actually it is something like the HTML, but it is not customizable. It is customizable and it is not predefined. It is case sensitive, so it cannot be replacement to an HTML. Trivial. It cannot be replacement to an HTML. The XML, as per the first definition, we said that it is a solution to help build customized solutions into services over the web. Into services. So it is not a replacement. So we cannot use the XML to replace the HTML. We cannot. We can build web solutions using the XML for sure, but we cannot replace the HTML with the XML. XML actually is, and also another let's say negation which the XML cannot be playing the role of is that the XML cannot be seen in a formatted way directly. No, it is a textual representation of a content, of a data. It is something that can be read in text format. So to format it at the end of the day to be visualizing content in the front end interface like an HTML page, we need something else to cooperate. So the XML cannot be utilized to format one unit. But it can be converted into an HTML-like page using another component, which is the XSLT. It's the scripting or styling language that works with the XML. XML is not a programming language as the word means, but it is structuring tag-based language. It is not to be utilized by itself for itself. It is to generate services, to generate a link in between services, or interoperation in between services, an interoperability solution in between services over the web. But at the end of the day, it is not a standalone programming language. It is not a protocol in the sense of it is not to be utilized as when we say that it is it can be utilized to generate a solution to play the role of an interoperation or interoperation, let's say, solution in between services over the web. Yes, but it is not a protocol to transfer solutions, to transfer data in between services. It is not. It can be utilized across the networks, between different networks, yes, to work across different platforms, yes, absolutely compatible, but it is not a protocol. It means here the sense of protocol is it is not standardized, but it can be transferred in between networks to run solutions across networks. We talk networks here, the internet or others. The XML is not a database since it is not a programming language. Also, it is not a database, but as a tag-based solution, it can be stored inside a database. It is not a database, but it can be stored inside a database. Remember this. Exactly summary of what we were discussing right now. So the XML is not a programming language. It is a tag-based scripting language, programming language, something like that. It is utilized to structure the data into a readable format, readable for by whom, by humans or by machine, both, and to represent it actually in a textual form. It is not represented in a graphical mode where you can see images and videos and things like that. No, completely not. XML is to represent data in a structured format. That's it. Stop there. Full stop. Example of an XML, let's say, solution. We are seeing a starting tag which is to be closed here. The name article is something defined by the developer itself. There is nothing in HTML. In HTML, there is nothing called article. But in an XML, we can write article. Why? Because it's customizable. It is not predefined. But once we start it, we have to close it. We have to terminate it. Inside the article, which is actually a tag or the developer is defining, we have actually elementary tags. The author, here we are talking about the author, the name of the author who wrote this article, and the title of the article written here by this author. So main tag, subtags, 1, 2. Every tag has to have a start and has to have an end. Simple. So if we see, it is something like the HTML, yeah, absolutely, but we are talking about something developers are defining. From where we got this article, it's because of the need of the developer or the solution in question. Author from where? The same thing is from the need of the question or the developer. Title, we have in HTML something called title. In HTML, we do have title. We can see it actually in the head and in the header part. It has a section of the HTML body, HTML solution. It's not yet the title here. We are seeing it inside an article. It's not the same. Okay, if you can actually just simply read this content, you'll understand that we are defining an article that has an author, and this article also has a title. Very simple. This article title is written by this author. This author has written the article with this title. So clearly you can understand that. Something actually, another example that actually it can be utilized for machines here, but still it is valid as an XML also. Still it is valid as an XML. But for us as humans, it is not easy to understand it. It is still valid, but it is not something that we clearly understand it. We have to focus, we have to concentrate, and we have to analyze in order to understand what is that. Still, XML only. We are defining a tag named T108, but it has to be closed here, and it is. And inside of it, we are having two subtags, X87 that starts here and gets closed here, and G10 that gets starts here and terminated here. Still structured in a format that it presents the data in a structured way. So we are block 1, the full block. Inside of it, we are having subcategory 1 that have limitations, beginning and ending. Second subcategory, sub-block that has limitations also, the beginning and end. Okay, is it an XML? Absolutely. Is it for human beings? I don't know. We cannot guess because it is hard for us to understand what is that T08. We have to use a catalog or definition for what is that, what the developers wanted to present through this. To be utilized in a program, yes, actually, absolutely true. Because in a structured format, the computer does not care what is the name. Even the computer does not understand what does mean article. The computer, no, it is lexically, computer does not understand. It is an English script. That's it. So they do not care. What is that? The computers, the programs. This is the start, this is the end. That's it. This is the start, this is the end. That's it. The computers. It's readable for us humans, not the computers, not the software. So this is another valid XML example. remember, actually, this is another example of an XML where we are using only a starting tag and a closing tag. If we do not need a sub tag, so we can immediately write in whatever we need as content. So here actually something that represents, it can be utilized for different purposes, maybe security reasons, or let's say a security checkup, something like that. But in all cases, it is a data to be passed to the computers. For us as humans, we cannot understand what it is. For us as humans, if I tell you to translate me this into Arabic or in another language, completely not possible for you as humans. But for actually computers, it can be. Mainly, it is at least it is structuring that this is a block of data. It is for us humans. It is specified that it is a block of data. It has a beginning and end. That's it. So for this reason, XML it is to be. It is much more friendly to applications, not only humans. It is to structure the content, yes, but for this example here, it is a structured view. Here, this block. It's structured view, yes, but it is not something that you can understand as humans. And this is the example. You cannot translate this text here, this textual representation. It is completely not readable for us humans. But for computers, it can be utilized for something, for software, for application, it can be utilized for certain purposes. Since it is structured. As we said that the XML actually it is a tool to be. It is a strong tool actually. It is a weapon to be utilized to generate solutions to help interoperate services over the web. Yes, absolutely. So we said that it can be run on different networks also. So it is completely portable. So this is a conclusion. The XML is portable. Answer is true. Means portable, it can be run from a computer to another. It means you run it in this computer, then you copy paste it in another computer. It can run. Absolutely, it will run. It would. Portable. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. It can be as since it is customized by developers, so it is a human friendly. It has to, in a structured way, present the data in something that the humans can understand. So it has to give meaning from the structure. It has to give meaning, expressive. Also, it is shown a good resiliency in the sense of it is flexible enough to add extra tags or to delete, let's say, extra tags or something like that to make the necessary additions. Yeah, absolutely flexible. It can. And if you're having content to use for different purposes, yeah, absolutely, we can extract from an XML solution portions or parts to use it for different reasons or different programs or something like that. Absolutely. XML can be, as we said earlier, also it can be utilized to generate web solutions. How to? Actually, the XML is textual representation, and we saw that. But we can utilize the XML to generate web solutions. Yes, absolutely, yes, we can. There is a solution how to convert the textual representation of this XML into a graphical view that can be utilized or can be rendered into something that we can see it in an HTML format. Not HTML, but in an HTML-like format. Means something rendered in a web page to be seen actually as a solution over the web. It is common. It is not something specific. Means the XML. It is a strong tool to be utilized for different reasons according to the definition what we saw so far. You cannot neglect the capability or the potential of the XML since it is commonly used and a cross-platform and portable solution. Wherever you can plug it, it will run. Wherever you can plug it, he means actually computer number one, or computer number two, or network number one, network number two, and so on. all. You can run it here or there, so it is possible to be run without any issue. Inter-services solution. Inter-services solutions. Remember these perps. This is a layer. This is a layer where the XML can be visualized. We have a data. We have data in a data store. And we have the interface where the users, the human beings, have to visualize the content. For security reasons, or for structure and context, or something like that, or for even conversion only, from something that we cannot understand as humans into something that humans can understand, we can use the XML for that purposes. We can use the XML to generate mobile-specific content, the WML, wireless mobile language, for other reasons. So these title of example only, as per title of example only, it's not limited to. Same scenario, which is a solution to be utilized to generate a conversion solution from, or let's say, a BIA to work in inter processes. XML actually, it is something to be utilized as a solution to structure the content. It is let's say, a view. It is a solution to structure the content. Remember, as per this view here, actually it is 100% providing a structured metadata. For example, I have actually a PDF format, a PDF file, as you can see in the background. The file here, it's a PDF. But what are the properties of this PDF file? What are the properties? If it is generated, like the example we saw earlier, from a data store, which is actually a list of data content that cannot be read by humans. So the properties, it is the metadata. Here we talk about the metadata, means the title, the author, the date of generation, the whatever, publisher, and the content and context, yes, and so on, and the rights and the all the properties of this PDF file. It is the metadata. It is to be generated using the XML. So XML here actually to be started and closed here. So we have a tag. The RDF, it has a meaning, but just to in order not to see all the details, simply metadata generated using the XML. Another example, without we come to that. Remember, actually, as per the definition of the XML, because of this scenario number 4, I'll come back to this view here. The categories to be seen inside actually a block, they can be also grouped into groups. See the article here, the same article you saw as an example earlier. Here we see inside of it we have another sub, and actually sub block, which is by itself have a sub, let's say, tag. This section, which is a sub block or sub tag from this article, this section has a sub section, which is the index. So we can have a nested tagging as much as it is needed. So there is no limit. There is no limit. At the end of the day, the XML actually is a simple presentation of structured content. It has elements, it has attributes, and some details regarding the version, mainly the platform to run, and that's it. So this is the definition of all what we can see here in this example or in this example: attributes and elements, and some other the details to prescribe the platform and the version and the yes, the platform, the version maybe. Simple example. So here, it is a common sense, and it can be actually read by a human being without any explanation. You can visualize. Yes, exactly what we were seeing. Here is the reading. It is the interpretation of this block here from the article. The computer will pass from the article to the author, and from the article to the title, and from the article to the text, and from the article not to the abstract, from the article to the text, then to the abstract. So there has to be actually a sequential order. It is the interpretation. Article, title, author, text, then from the text to the other subcategories. Common sense. As per the XML within the .NET platform, there are predefined libraries that help us to use predefined, let's say, namespaces of functions or functionalities for the purpose of actually facilitating the work with the XML, mainly to format or to present the limits of a block. Like the Ajax, we have a library that we can utilize. So the XML also, we have a namespace library or namespace to utilize. System.xml. System.xml. Usually our solution is based on the use of the C#. XML is textual representation. It can be implemented using the Notepad simply, text editor, any text editor. We do not need by force the Visual Studio or any other IDE. It can be integrated with the .NET platform, absolutely true. And also it can be actually written as a standalone solution to be integrated or incorporated within another software, another application, using simple text editor. Simple text editor, absolutely. Simply. And at the end of the day, we are having a node to be integrated. At the end of the day, we are having a node, since we talk about an XML actually view. This is a node. What we can see, it's a node. This is it's a node. This is a node. This is a node. So every tag that has a start and an end, it can be seen by a software as a node for the ease of the integration within another platform to integrate an XML and HTML format. So what are the nodes to be integrated? What are the nodes to be integrated? We do have actually an open and closing tag for each, let's say, representation, each value, each data. We do have actually, there are on the platform or the web, there are readers of the XML standalone contents, let's say standalone readers. We talk about parsers. We talk about parsers. The parsers, they are responsible for visualizing the XML in something that we can read as humans with a structured mode, XML parser. So the XML parser is something that can be utilized to transfer the XML from a string-based, from a textual clear view, into something that we can see it in a structured mode. So this is here is visualized using a parser. Why? Because we are seeing clearly the tag that starts here, closes here. Then first tag here, second tag here. Then here we are having a full block, a full node that has a start and end, and between inside of it we are having. So it is the role of the XML parser. Simply without any in order not to make it actually long. Summary of all what we defined so far. This is the summary. Yeah, and since we said that the XML is a structured representation of data, so once we try to search values inside the XML file, the content is descendant, means do not expect to find a closing tag before this opening tag. No. So once you pass by an opening tag, there will be a closing tag after. So it is a common sense here that the content is structured in a way that you can expect based on the architecture of the nodes. Now I'm using the word node. A node means you're having a tag with a start, an opening, and a closing. That is a node. And this node has to have actually a clear and a standard representation, which is the beginning first, then the closing later. There are predefined methods can be utilized to search whether an XML document, descended or descended nodes. But those actually are successful and would return results if the XML format is respecting the rules. Because if we break the rule, we do not have an opening tag, or we do not have an ending tag, or we do not have the clear order and sequential representation of the content. So those functions or those methods would fail to return results. Yeah. Starting tags and closing tags, nodes, in so many scenarios that actually they are represented I just kept thinking about the solution, about an example only, but regardless, in so many cases, actually, the tags or the indicators of tags, they have to be actually represented through special characters, which is actually in the sense of in an XML, for example, in an XML file, we are going to have some mathematical functions to be represented, math functions. Math functions, we are going to use the math signs, the equal, the less than, greater than, the ampersand, all of them, they are having a function inside the math functions. How do we represent them? Because if we write less than any other thing, let me come back to the example we saw earlier. Yes, here. What is this? Is it an XML? Who said? Who said? For us humans, we do not know. Because of this, can we just use a name like this, T108? No, I'm going to represent T less than 108. He is not accepted. Why? Because this is special character. If you would like to use the less than, for example, here, something like that, in order to avoid to use as an special character and to make it, to confuse the computer, we may write like this. Actually, it is to be represented actually as an ASCII code. It's ASCII code here. It is to represent special characters. It is to represent special characters. It is actually a sort of HTML representation of the data. Here we are talking about the data. We are not talking about the tags, the data inside. And each has actually some values, whatever. So it depends on what is the thing you want to represent. The not there is actually an ASCII representation of that. ASCII representation. By this, actually, you come to an end of this XML. If you hear your name, just say yes, please.